And now even just part two about this whole black history and the narrative being taught to kids. Now in the curriculum, oh, they can't wait to tell these black kids how they come from slaves and slavery. But they will never tell white people about their origin of how they came from caves. They tell black people, oh, you were stolen from Africa. Oh, you were on the ships. Oh, you were on the boats. Oh, you were getting thrown into the Atlantic Ocean just for being black. Oh, look at how nasty you were treated on these ships, stolen from Africa. Oh, you were brought here and you were slaves and you got all this. We already went over it. Got treated like a slave. That's the narrative. They cannot wait to teach your black kids this. But do you ever hear them teach these white children about how they came from the freaking Caucasus Mountains? You don't ever hear them talk about white people's freaking history. They don't teach these white kids that you guys used to crawl around in the caves of Europe. They don't put that narrative in these white kids' ears. Why? Because they know why. They know why they will not teach these white children this knowledge. Why? Because it will lower their self-esteem. It will damage their mindset. They don't want white children looking at themselves like this. This isn't the narrative they want. But now come black kids. Oh, you can't wait to tell them how they weren't shit, basically. But thank God for the laws that gave you guys your freedom to move around town. But you won't talk about the white people walking around on all fours. That should be part of the curriculum then. You showing how black people came up from slavery. Show how white people came up from cavemen. It's fine for black kids to look at themselves as once upon a time being slaves, but it ain't cool for white kids to look at themselves as once upon a time being cave animals. That's what we need to be fighting for. Y'all here want to argue and fuss about, like I said, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, like these irrelevant things. You want to argue about something, argue about equal treatment or equal topics being introduced to these kids in the curriculum. You want to teach black kids about this, you better teach these white kids about this too. So now at the end of the day, even now when they're looking at each other in class, if this one got to hold his head and feel some type of way about being a slave once upon a time, he can't feel bad, because guess what? This one got to feel some kind of way about once upon a time he had to be a cave animal. So now you're still looking eye to eye. But you're teaching these kids that, oh, black people once upon a time, they used to be nothing, basically. God bless, God help them get a crumb. But then you teach these white kids their founding fathers are so great and they come from such greatness. This is how they started in this country. So you're starting these white kids here as far as self-image, as far as self-confidence, as far as self-love, as far as self-respect. You're starting these kids here, these white kids here, telling them they come from these brave founding fathers. And you're starting these black kids right here, telling them they come from poverty, they come from oppression, they come from being slaves. They come, once upon a time, they weren't even allowed to look a white person in the eye. Once upon a time, they weren't even allowed to drink water next to a white person. Once upon a time, they couldn't be in a room with a white person. This is where you're starting these black kids, and this is where you're starting these white kids. And then you grow up and you wonder why there's such a difference. You say, well, you had the same opportunities. You went to school together. Okay, but now what did the school teach them? The school put the black kids here. The school put the white kids here. Yeah, you can play together in recess. So they look at it like you guys are on the same level and on the same playing field. But in reality, what did this just do to your self-confidence and how you see yourself in the world? And what did this do to your confidence? You're seeing your history being like, you come from greatness and you can do anything. Your history is, man, you better just be happy that you're allowed to like walk around the streets right now. Yo, and this person is supposed to strive to be like, to reach higher heights than this. Is it possible? Of course. We see it every day. I'm not coming on that perspective. But what's the majority of black people in this country? This is where they are, and this is where white is. And it doesn't just happen overnight. It starts in school. It starts when they are young. It starts in their education, because this is what, like, where the kids start. You throw your kids in school from 3 years old, from preschool. From 3 years old, a white person is teaching your kids. Jesus Christ. Even if it's a black person teaching your kids, guess what? She's teaching your kids a white curriculum. She's not allowed to come up with her own plan. She has to follow what the guideline and what the district tells her she can teach. Think she gonna come in there and teach you about some real African history? You're mad. She'll be out of a job, or he'll be out of a job. So even if it's a black person teaching you from 3 years old, you're learning a white education. You're learning a white mind. So just right there from your youth, the scale is so off balance, and then you grow up and they have the nerve to look at you like, why are you so off balance? This is not playing victimhood, because they like to hide behind that too. Oh, don't play victim. This ain't about victim. This is facts. You're lying to yourself. And that's why black people can never be free in this country if you're not willing to really like deal with some facts. Not always trying to like be the big person in the situation. Sometimes you got to address this little shit. It's not always about, oh, I fought through the ghetto and now I'm great, so I don't choose to be a victim. Okay, awesome. But you can't deny this victim status. You can't deny this injustice and the inequality. You can't. If you are, you're being very unfair to those who maybe don't have the same drive, the same goal. God bless your heart as a black person. Maybe you had real like love in your heart to boost you to that. There's a lot that don't. And they're in the same class with this kid being taught that he's so great and comes from such greatness, while you here, like I said, just you should be happy you're allowed to walk around the streets without getting beat up just for being black. You want to teach these black kids they come from slaves? You better start teaching these white kids they come from the cave. That's fair balance. And then now, wherever you both end up in life, yeah, it's what you put in. You can't start one up with confidence and a high self-image and start the other one off here with this bottom feeder mentality and then expect them. No. As black people, we got to care for a little bit something other than just the shallow things we fighting for, protesting peacefully in these streets. They're like, no, our children really do demand more from us on a real level. On a real level, man.